I just want to talk about the chords and the way they fit into the scheme of things with the blues, because I think that's very important, not to get so intellectual with the chords and to see how they relate. In other words, what I'm talking about is instead of seeing the chords as separate positions, like in this case, let's say we have an A chord and then a bar A chord, which I'm sure you all know, and then an A, let's say in a D shape up the neck, an A, let's say in the C position up the neck. And the tendency is to think of these as, memorizing 4, 5, 6, 7 different shapes. What starts to happen is, after a while, we start to take those positions and break them down into 1, 2, or 3 voices. So we start to see bits and pieces of chords, in a sense. So instead of this A chord, this becomes those 2 notes, those 2 notes, those 2 notes, all these different sounds. So if I play a riff, it sounds like some complicated riff, but really what it is just pieces of the A chord moving down, right? And I'm not thinking of scales, I'm not thinking of, pentatonic ideas. Even if I'm playing a riff, like a standard kind of, some kind of blues riff. Because after all, what a pentatonic idea is just chords, notes based off the chords. So if I'm playing a single string rod, I'm not thinking at all in terms of scales, major scales, minor scales, pentatonics. It's just the chords broken down. And when we're dealing with fingerpicking, what happens is in order to realize a lot of these things, it's the right hand, as we talked about earlier, has to start really getting comfortable with that separation of the thumb and the fingers. So in other words, if your right hand is still kind of locked into an alternating bass kind of thing, no matter how many ideas you might have memorized here, it's still gonna, it's always gonna fall into that steady bass. Yet if I play a riff, the thing that gave it the smoothness or the swing was not so much what's going on in the left hand, which was just, very simple positions. It's the right hand. It's feeling the time and using the thumb and the fingers together. And this comes from what we're doing here, is establishing this separation. Getting the thumb, in this case, steady in the beginning with a syncopation on top, and then we'll by degrees start to alternate the melody and then start to syncopate the thumb, so the whole pick becomes syncopated, till ultimately there's no pattern at all, and every time you play it, it's slightly different. And when you get into this idea with the right hand, the left hand starts to open up. So it's really, one hand plays against the other in a sense. So it's not about just memorizing chords, and I think that's a mistake to do that. It's just realizing the chords as we're playing, and whatever riffs we're playing, like in Weeping Willow, and in a minute I'm going to play some variations that I played earlier, that when you play these variations, you always ask yourself, what chord is it based off of? Not so much to analyze what are the notes and get theoretical with an A, there's a G sharp, there's an F sharp, anything like that. It's just to start to see a riff, say, okay, that's all an A phrase. And then as this hand opens up, then it starts to make a lot more sense. And you can play the phrase maybe backwards, take pieces of the phrase, mix it up. And that's what I talked about earlier when I was talking about improvising within it. You're taking all these elements, these subtleties, the syncopation, the riffs, and being able to change them slightly, or change the syncopation. And then when we get into adding the brushes and the double thumbing and the damping, all the characteristics, it's in all these subtleties that, to me, is the beauty of the music, and you're improvising kind of within the form. And it really is a solo acoustic idea. It's unique to the guitar. It's not so much of a band idea. So it's very fascinating in that way. And like I said, I'm going to play the variations now, but these are the ideas that I want to keep reinforcing and to bear in mind as we get into all the tunes and the different sounding tunes. That just be aware of the positions and be aware of just getting that separation, and then we'll start to get more advanced as we go. So let's go to the split screen now, and I'm going to play some of the variations that I played earlier that I tabbed out. And then you start to see, these riffs start to unfold. Okay, so let's go to the split screen. Variation. first part earlier. The straight verse. There it is. Okay, one more time from the top of the variation. D minor. And then back to variation. Same as before. Okay, last time. Watch where I'm putting the thumb here, it's on the beat. E. Notice how it pulled off there? Little variation. D minor.